we're going to be talking about cognitive friction and the importance of continuing to learn even when we have artificial intelligence. So in terms of the news, the main thing is Sonnet 4.6 just came out. I've been using it this morning. It's good. It's good. It has not blown me away. It will become, I believe, probably very likely my new model that I use, my new default, but I wouldn't say that it has immediately blown my socks off. We have already got Opus 4.6. We got that last week or 2 weeks ago, which is extremely good, and I've been using that as my daily driver. Sonnet is pretty much the same, not quite as good because it's a Sonnet rather than an Opus model. If we have a look at Anthropic's benchmarks, you can see it is below Opus 4.6, but Opus 4.6 is token hungry. If you are spending money on the API for Opus 4.6, you will run out of money very quickly. It's expensive. So if you're using the API, Sonnet 4.6 is going to be a good option because you don't need the power of Opus 4.6 most of the time. Or if you have a paid Anthropic account, you're paying for Claude, this is fantastic news because Opus 4.6, if you're on the $20 a month plan, you get very little usage. You'll have a few prompts, a few chats back and forth, and then you'll be cut off. I'm personally on the $200 a month plan, so it doesn't matter to me. I get a decent amount of usage for 4.6, but for most people on the $20 a month, that was impossible. So this is great news. So it's good. It's a good model. It's better than Sonnet 4.5, and Sonnet 4.5 was already really good. Is it better than Opus 4.6? No, that's fine. Remember that all of these models get better and better all the time, so I'm not going to dwell on its exact benchmarks, but it's good, and I'm glad lots of people have it to use now, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. But for me, I'll probably keep using Opus 4.6 because I'm on the $200 a month plan. For anyone who's not on $200 a month, Sonnet 4.6 is going to be the one to use. And I understand $200 a month is an awful lot of money. So that's the main news. There's nothing particularly exciting about that. It's just a new model, a new incremental model. You'll see on Twitter, you'll see on Reddit, people being like, it's the best model at doing this and this and this. And then there'll be people on the other side saying, oh, but it can't count the R's and strawberries. Or it doesn't tell me if I should take my car to the car wash. Blah. There'll be all that viral crap. As always, ignore the noise and just use the AI for your work. Use it for your life. Just get on with doing stuff. Don't get stuck in the echo chamber of people yelling at each other about whether it's the best thing or the worst thing ever. Does not matter. It's all getting better all of the time. Okay, so with that, I want to switch over to a little presentation that I put together. Oh, good morning. Morning, Tamas. Morning, Ryan. I'm going to do a little presentation on a topic that a lot of people are discussing. I'm in a WhatsApp group with a number of my students, and this morning everybody has been talking about the use of artificial intelligence and what impact that has on education. So they were talking specifically about children, but I think this applies to all of us. The fact that we have AI now, what does this mean for education? What does it mean for kids growing up? What does this mean for us as adults? Do we continue to learn? What does this mean for students at university, etc.? It has huge ramifications. I want to talk about this concept of cognitive friction and why we need to continue to learn even though it's very easy nowadays to not. We can skip the learning and get to the result, but I still feel that we're stealing from our future selves if we do that. So I want to talk about why it's a good idea to continue to learn, even though AI can do nearly everything for us and it's going to get better and better and better. So I've put together this little presentation on cognitive friction. So AI, when you use an artificial intelligence, Gen AI, you can get to the answer very quickly. If you have a problem that you're trying to solve, it could be a personal, it could be in work, you can talk to AI and it can help you burst straight through it. That is very different from when you have to work out and tinker by yourself. There's a specific example that I wanted to talk about that's over there, so I can't reach it. I was doing some robotics the other day, building a little robot, very basic stuff just so I can learn the principles, and hooking the robot up to a brain. And the brain of this robot is something like this. It's a Raspberry Pi, a little mini computer. I've got a much smaller one on the robot, but I was having problems getting the robot brain, the Raspberry Pi, and the robot body, the hardware that I'd put together, to talk. They were not connecting, and I was going back and forward, having to write out the code, look at the documentation, seeing if I'd spelt something wrong, going through the error messages, and eventually I was like, oh, what am I doing? And I just connected the brain directly using a USB cable, connected it into Claude code, and said, hey, Claude, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm building, this is what I've done so far, these are the commands I've used, these are the errors I'm getting, what's gone wrong? And Claude Code was like, cool, yep, absolutely, no problem, and then just rewrote what it needed to, got through all the bugs, and then I plugged it back into the robot and it worked immediately. So I got to the end result, which was a working little robot. It drives around and it does its own little things, but I skipped the learning process. I skipped the tiresome process of hitting a wall, getting stuck, working out how to get past that wall, and then learning how to get past that wall next time I hit into it. Instead, I was like, no, I'm going to ignore that. I'm just going to go around it. I'm not going to deal with this at all. I'm going to use artificial intelligence. It solved the problem and I got to the end result quicker. Now, this is one anecdotal example, but useful when we expand that out to learning in general. We don't have to go through the hardship of learning anymore when we can use artificial intelligence. I'm not talking just about in schools, I'm not talking about universities, I'm talking about generally. As a human being, why would we keep learning when there is an easier option, which is to offload the cognitive difficulty to an artificial intelligence? And this is a problem that is already in play and is going to get worse and worse and worse, or better, depending on your perspective. The problem with instant answers is that it reduces your struggle. It reduces the amount of failures you have. It reduces the frustration, but then it also steals away the breakthroughs, the ability for you to move through a problem and realize, I've been banging my head against the wall with this mathematical equation or with this essay that I'm writing. I haven't been able to structure it, but then by hitting it again and again, you learn how to get through it. And that is the process of learning. Learning is about making a mistake, realizing you've made a mistake, course correcting, and then not making that mistake again in the future. You have to fail in order to learn, and AI is basically removing that from us. Another example for me, when I went to university, I went to Oxford and I studied history. I turned up the first week, met my tutor, Matthew, and he said, here is a reading list. Just gave a sheet of A4 paper. Here's a reading list, and there was a question about, was the invasion in 1066, the Normans invading Britain, was it more continuity or crisis? I forget the exact wording, but that was it. It was just, here is a title of an essay and here is a reading list. Off you go. I'll see you in a week. And I had to go off to the library, which has all the books, get these books, read these books, or realize I couldn't read all of them in the week, but I had to read and then use all of that information that I had analyzed and then synthesize it into an argument. Really hard. And I had to do that every single week, sometimes 2 essays every single week for 3 years. Hard work. Hard grind, and you would run into dead ends. You would not be able to find the book. You would have an argument in your head all week that then suddenly realized it wasn't going to work, so you'd have to rewrite it all, and then you'd only see your teacher once a week and they'd give some degree of feedback on it, not very much, and then you would continue on that journey. And that just took years and years of training and difficulty. So let's say I'm given my first week of university, I'm given an essay title and I'm given a list of books to read. Now it's first week of university, I want to go out and get drunk and go and party. So what I could do is, considering that AI knows all of these books, or if it doesn't, I could probably find the PDF and feed them in. And considering that it can help me structure an argument, I can feed this question and I can feed all these books and these articles into an artificial intelligence and say, hey, write me an essay. Now that's the very lazy way to do it. And there are better ways to do it, which is, hey, let's co-write an essay together. But still, for the sake of this argument, that has removed all of the cognitive friction, all of the difficulty that I need to go through in order to write an essay every single week. So I'm no longer learning that skill. I'm no longer hitting friction, cognitive friction, and having to work through it in order to hone my skills. I do not need to do that for the next 3 years because I can now pass it off to AI. And I imagine I've talked to some students, I know in a lot of university courses and school right now, AI is incredibly appealing. Remember, these are people who have other things they want to be doing. They don't necessarily want to be in the library all week. As an older person, you can probably look back and be like, no, I wouldn't use it. I would get the work done because education is important. Yes, education is important, but remember, when you are a 18-year-old and 19-year-old, you have a lot of other priorities. You might later think, shit, I wish I'd worked harder. Right then, when you're 19 years old, that's not what you're thinking. You're thinking, I need to get to the bar by, 5 p.m, probably earlier, let's be honest. What shortcuts can I take? AI. So this is going to be a really big issue. I've seen this counter argument, which is, well, it's a tool. No. If it was just like a calculator, which we use to kind of augment our abilities, yes, we can make this argument, but it's not. With a calculator, you still need to know what numbers to plug in what order. You need a conceptual understanding of what it is you have in the calculator. You do not need that with generative AI. I can go to ChatGPT and I can start working through some pretty complex problems in some pretty complex areas that I don't have any personal knowledge of, and it will be able to give me decent answers. I might not have the skill or the training or the taste to be able to tell whether that's a good answer, but I will be able to get an answer from it. With a calculator, if you don't know the buttons that you need to punch in, the calculator itself is useless. So the calculator is a far more dumb piece of technology than generative AI. Whenever I see people make this argument of, oh, it's just ameliorating, it's just augmenting, it's just a tool, it is not. This is the first piece of technology, and this is why it's different, the first piece of technology that can even approximate our cognitive ability. Now, I'm not saying it has the intelligence of a human being. I don't even know what intelligence is, and that's something we've been debating for thousands of years. But the end result, what AI can produce, is increasingly very, very similar functionally to what a human can produce without needing to know which buttons to press. It will just go off and work that out itself. So it is not just a calculator for words. And I think whenever you see people making this kind of argument, it underlies a misunderstanding of what the technology is. And again, I'm not saying it's intelligent. It doesn't need to be intelligent to be useful. That's a really important point here. It does not need to be a human level intelligence. It does not need to be AGI for it to be incredibly useful right now. And whether or not it is intelligent or not is kind of theoretical. What is important is what it can produce, if it can function and create output, which is functionally the same as a human. It doesn't matter what's going on inside. I'm not going to talk about the Chinese room, but there's a whole kind of philosophy of this we can get into, which again is not that important. It's how we use AI on a daily basis that matters. I love learning languages, so I speak Chinese. I'm learning Greek at the moment because I'm about to move to Cyprus, and I enjoy the process of learning languages. Learning a language is all about repetition. It is all about trying to learn a word, getting it wrong, being corrected, and then saying it correctly the next time or writing it correctly the next time, again and again. And with something like Chinese, it takes a long time because it's very distinct from English, extremely distinct. And once you started to be able to put together sounds and words, you can start to structure them into sentences, and then from sentences you can move to communication. But all of this relies on getting something wrong, realizing it's wrong, getting some kind of correction, and then doing it better the next time. So that's why communicating quickly in language is so useful. I see a lot of people who study languages who are just learning vocabulary. Duolingo, I'm looking at you. That is not actually practicing. That is role playing, which is why a lot of people who use something like Duolingo, when they go to the country and they try to speak the language, they realize that, I can't. I can do a Duolingo exercise, but I can't do the actual language learning. For language learning, you need to talk to people and you need to get it wrong and you look like an idiot. And then you need to be corrected and get better at it. And that is hard work. And that is the same with every piece of learning. You're going to get something in your brain and you're going to struggle to retrieve it. And each time you retrieve it, each time you bring it back, it's going to be slightly easier. That concept is going to be easier to retrieve each time than it was the last time. And this is language learning. This is how we learn, basically. If we remove the productive failure mechanism, then we don't get the repetitions needed to be able to strengthen that synapse, strengthen that muscle, so that we can retrieve. And we need to go through that. It requires repetition. It's like growing a muscle. It requires repetition over time. If you're strength training, you're going to have to lift weights over a period of time. You're going to atrophy your muscles, and your muscles are going to grow back stronger. Your brain's similar to that. It's an analogy, but it requires that effortful work, that productive failure, in order to get you to a point where you can do it with ease. Artificial intelligence gives us the option to entirely skip that. We can entirely skip that phase, get straight to the answer, which feels good. I'm not going to lie, it feels really good. And it leads to this illusion of competence. I can put out an article. I can put out something. It looks and it feels very competent. In front of other people, I will seem like I know what I'm talking about. But that's not necessarily the case if you haven't done all of the prep work in the background. This is a great example, this slide deck that NotebookLM has just created for me. Previously, I would have had to spend a week putting something like this together. Instead, I've been able to put together this slide deck very, very quickly. I've actually robbed myself of the additional cognitive load of putting together a slide deck, which it's a pain, it's a chore, but it helps to reinforce your learning of a particular topic. In my particular case, I'm not trying to undercut myself too much. What I'm doing is I'm teaching this stuff in order to reinforce my learning. We're going to talk about methods for doing this in a moment. Teaching is a really powerful one. It's called a Feynman method. Richard Feynman is a genius. The Feynman method: choose a concept to learn, teach it to yourself or someone else, return to the source material if you get stuck, simplify your explanations and create analogies. If you can teach someone, that means you've mastered the material. Until you can teach somebody and explain it, you still need to work on it, because to be able to teach something, break something down and explain it to somebody who doesn't have the same foundations means you need a deep understanding of what is happening. AI allows us to skip all of this and get the illusion of competence. It gives us the ability to create a reasonable sounding answer, an essay, a document like this, when we haven't actually put any of the cognitive work into it, which is fine until you get caught out, which can happen. So what I want to talk about is, how do we avoid this? I'm going to skip through to this. Because I skipped putting together the slide deck, I'm missing some of this. But I want to talk about a few methods, which I did write out before. I'm not totally relying on the AI, for not allowing our cognitive abilities to atrophy, and instead kind of pushing back on AI where it is important. I'm a big fan of using AI to augment ourselves and to do a lot more than we ever could. I do huge amounts of stuff in each workday, but we still need to keep in play our continuous learning. I'm going to be talking about this as an adult, but if you have children, or if you are still learning, if you're at university, hell, if you're a kid and you're watching this, I don't know why you would be, I'm very boring, but if you want to keep your mind sharp, you still need to go through the processes of learning. So I think the first thing you can do is spend a bit of time manually on something before you reach for AI. I know this is very different to what I normally say, which is, hey, see if you can solve a problem with AI. Solving a problem with AI as your first port of call, that's a really good idea when you were first starting to learn what AI can do and what it can't do. So I always recommend people do that. So you start to replace Google with artificial intelligence, generative AI, in order to find its limitations, to find what it's good at, to find what it's not good at, to know the difference between the two. Super important. Once you have a good grasp on that, though, you have to push back and not use it to offload everything, especially things that you actually want to continue learning, things that you want to grapple with. Instead, just push it back. So instead of reaching immediately for the AI, try to deal with the problem yourself for 10-15 minutes. If you can't, go to the AI for help. And I'm going to talk about how you interface with the AI, because there's a difference between you just saying, fix it, and can you help me with this, and let's work through this together. First of all, try to do things without AI initially. And I know it's ironic me saying this, because I'm pro using AI in most parts of our lives. But if there is something that you do want to maintain your knowledge and you want to increase your learning over time, spend a bit of time doing it yourself initially. So the next one is, don't just use ChatGPT or Claude to get answers, but use it to ask better questions and use it to question you as well. So ChatGPT built this in because we could do it previously. We could say, hey, I'm trying to learn this subject. I want to learn about large language models. We could prompt it and do that before, but now they've added something called study mode. So if you click on plus and then more, so it's quite hidden, they have something called study and learn. So you can now say, explain a topic to me, create a practice quiz, help me with my homework. You would now ask your questions in this study mode. And what it's going to do is it will not immediately give you the answers, but instead it's going to have a conversation with you and then ask you questions. So it works like a tutor. So this is one of the really exciting things about AI, is we can potentially give every child on earth a one-to-one tutor. Really cool. It relies on them using it as a tutor and not using it for other things. So there's trust, behavioral work we need to do there. It is a possibility. We can give everybody a tutor, which is really cool. There's a great book by Salman Khan on this, actually. Salman Khan, Brave New Words, which is a book all about education. It's written by Salman Khan of the Khan Academy. I highly recommend it, especially if you've got kids, because he talks about AI in education. So in this case, let's say I'm learning Greek, which I am. I struggle with the gender endings. What are they called? What are they called? Suffixes. So this has now put ChatGPT into a tutor mode. It's going very slowly. Oh, it's reading documents. What documents is it reading? I think it's going and finding Greek grammars and having a look through some documentation. So you might want to put it in 5.2 thinking. We'll also have 5.3 very, very shortly. You'd probably want it in a smarter mode for this. Since you're learning Greek alongside Mandarin, oh, it knows I'm learning Chinese. Well, speak Chinese. Let's sharpen this properly. Are you beginner level, still learning the alphabet and basic vocabulary, or can you already form simple sentences like, oh God, I'm not going to read bagalo. Okay, I'm not going to read Greek on the live stream because I'll have the Greek speakers yelling at me. And can you see this is started to ask me questions? So it said, all right, let's find out where you are and let's kind of work out where you're going. And it started to give me lessons here. And then at the bottom, it should ask me some questions as well. Here we go. When you get endings wrong, so it's still diagnosing. Do you forget the article? Do you mix up the adjective agreement? Yes, because the Greeks, they change all the endings of everything, or you just can't remember which ending. I would say, oh, it's this one. And then I've got it in a drilling mode, so it will be able to test me. This is me proactively coming to AI and saying, hey, this is something I'm learning. I would say carve out a certain amount of time each day. This becomes a behavioral choice. So you carve out a certain amount of time. What I love using this for is if I'm reading a book, I can say, hey, I'm reading, let's say, let me start a new one. I'll put it in Learn and Study, and I'll say I'm reading, what's a good example? I'm reading The Road to Conscious Machines, can't spell, by Michael Woolridge. I've read it, but it sort of just happens to be here to help me study. So you can talk to the AI whilst you're reading another book. And that means that you are doing kind of a low dopamine activity, which is sitting down and reading a book, something that's quite important so we can maintain our attention spans and we can actually get in depth into a topic. But then we're using AI to supplement that, to be able to ask questions. So it says, what do you want to do? Do you want broad understanding for content creation, or do you want technical depth? And so as you can see, it has knowledge of the book. If it doesn't, you could potentially upload it, but most of the time it knows what the book is about, or it can find out. So in one sentence, what is Woolridge's core thesis so far? Oh God, I'm cheating, I'm having a look. I don't know, what, does he have a core thesis? AI is a big deal. Let's put that in and see what it does. It's a history. God, see, it's already challenging me. So this is cognitive load. It is forcing me to think about it in a way that I haven't actually thought about it. If it's asking, hey, if you've read this book, sum it up in one sentence, and immediately I'm like, so it's forcing me to actually think about it. And this is starting to reinforce the learning pathways in my head. So I said AI is a big deal, and it said, good, honest answer. But that's surface level. Let's sharpen it. When Woolridge says AI is a big deal, he's arguing that it's already conscious. No. It's progressing towards consciousness. No, he doesn't say that. It's powerful, but fundamentally understood. Let's see how well it knows the book is the other thing. Let's pressure test this. When he says it's misunderstood high. Okay, yeah. So this is fair. I think it's 3 in this one. But you use it alongside whatever it is you are working on. Super powerful, but it requires a behavioral shift. It requires you not just going to AI and asking it for answers, but instead asking questions and you following your curiosity. In the same way that sometimes you can go on Wikipedia and you can be like, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to learn about protozoa. And you click on the protozoa link, and then there's something about parasitic worms or whatever. So you might click on that, and then you go down this Wikipedia hole. You can do exactly the same thing with generative AI, and you can follow your curiosity. I recommend carving out some time each day to do that. You can do it on your telephone. If you are reading a book, tell the AI you're reading a book and ask it to question you on it. Ask it to act like a book club with you so you can get a deeper understanding of that particular concept. You can do it with articles as well. You can use it to quiz you. ChatGPT can do this as well, but I prefer NotebookLM for this. I've thrown this into NotebookLM. Notebook is free. It's a Google product. It's wonderful. I can give it sources. I've given a bunch of sources on the left. You can give it websites. You can upload a file. So you could give it a whole book. You can copy text in, connect it to your drive, or get it to search for resources. So I said I want a guide about how to set up OpenClaw, because that's what a lot of people are asking me, and I want to put together more examples, other ways to set up OpenClaw. So you can see on the left, it's found Reddit, GitHub documentation. It's gone to the official OpenClaw website. What I want to draw your attention to, though, is on the right-hand side, the studio. So here we can generate an audio podcast based on my sources. We can create a video explainer, make mind maps, make reports, make flashcards, make quizzes, infographics, etc. For now, I want to show you quizzes. So one really good way to test your understanding of something is to quiz yourself. This is kind of what school is. When you learn some material, then you get quizzed on it, you get tested on it. Because we're very good at thinking we know something until somebody asks us a question about it. That's what we're doing with quizzes. We're simulating the recall of information. So we can do that with AI. So let me find a quiz. So we've got a quiz on how to set up OpenClaw. So which of the following describes the rebranding history of the OpenClaw AI assistant project? So I know this one. It went from ClaudeBot to Maltbot to OpenClaw, all within a week. So B, that's right. Got that. This is fun. Oh, so this has got it horribly wrong. It's okay. This is my fault because there's a source in here which is about, oh, there's a game called Captain Claw. So I have no idea. Oh, I got it right though. Okay, so that slipped in because I didn't check the sources. So just be aware of that. According to tool versus skills distinction in the OpenClaw AI assistant, what role do skills play? They act as textbooks that teach the assistant how to combine tools for specific tasks. They provide the API keys. I'm going to say B. They are the textbooks. Skills provide the logic and instruction. Okay, so what you're doing here is you are using AI to, again, cognitive load. You are forcing yourself to have to actually learn. So we are using it for good rather than using it for ill. And we're using AI tools that already exist that allow us to do all of this stuff. I can create quizzes, I can create flashcards. Oops, I have created flashcards already. So I can use this as another way to test myself. Really good if you are doing language learning. Which one is flashcards? Oh, I don't think I made flashcards. These icons aren't very good. If you're watching this notebook team, I get very confused. So we're going to use AI for good rather than for ill. But again, that is a conscious choice. Next one is, I'm going to go back to NotebookLM, but we all learn differently. So for me, I'm very visual. I need to see something. Other people need to hear something. Other people are tactile. They need to feel something. Some people need to talk and explain something. Some people need to hear it multiple times. Like, we all learn in different ways. We can use AI to take something that is one format like this. This is a book. This is text. This is visual. I need to sit here and read through this. Sometimes there will be diagrams. That again is visual. There might be an audiobook version of it. What you can do with AI though is you can switch any material that you're learning into any format. So again, we're going to come back to NotebookLM. So we have the flashcards and the quizzes that we just looked at, but we also have the podcast. Let's have a look at this.
I have to admit, when I first saw OpenClaw on the docket for today, my brain went straight to the late 90s. I was ready to talk about Captain Claude.
Okay, it's talking about Captain Claw again, but it has made a 12-minute podcast about OpenClaw.
They seem to be really focused on the user experience here. They use a TUI, a terminal user interface.
So no hunting for a config.json.
And something they've added, which is really cool, is the ability for me to enter the podcast. So let me try this for you. I'm not sure how well the microphone's picking it up, but I can play the podcast and I can join.
I have to admit, when I first saw OpenClaw...
Oh, hey, welcome. What's up?
Hey guys, this is Kyle. Really happy to join your podcast to talk about OpenClaw. Recently, OpenClaw has been throwing up problems for me. I'm not sure if it's because I'm connected to Claude 4.5 and that's maybe causing an issue.
Kyle, welcome to the show. That is a fascinating question.
And it dives right into the core of how OpenClaw works.
Let's unpack this a little.
It sounds like you're running the AI agent itself.
So for me, I find audio learning incredibly slow. Audio is too slow for me. I think I need to see things. I need to read information for me, but we all learn differently. There are different ways to learn and NotebookLM unlocks them all. So if you are visual, but you prefer images, for example, then it can also create infographics, but it has this problem where it never works. We download it and we should be able to see it. There we go. Let me pull this into my browser though, so you can see it. So this has created an infographic of how OpenClaw works. Is it good? Yeah, it's not bad. It's like a mind map, basically. So tools and skills. So this is, again, it's supplementary. You're going to be using all of these different modalities to reinforce your learning. You're not just going to be reading. You'd be able to create an infographic of a book like this. You'd be able to create a podcast that you can listen to off the topic. Maybe you do one for each chapter if you really want to go into depth. You could do this with textbooks, books, articles, web pages. Doesn't really matter. You are able to convert them into many different learning modalities. And let me show you the other ones that we have. They have the video explainer. Here we go. So this creates, let's see if I can full screen it. I don't think that's going to show up for you. This creates...
All right, so today we've got a bit of a tech mystery on our hands. It's all about a name, OpenClaw, that seems to have a split personality. On one side,
I'm going to skip forward.
It's for productivity. Think of it like giving your computer a brain and hands that you can talk to. Bridge. It connects you via chat to a big brain like ChatGPT or Claude.
So it has created a whole video, which I'm going to stop it talking because it's very annoying, which has different slides basically, and it talks you through it. So again, another way of learning, all different ways of learning. What else does it have? Yeah, quizzes, infographics, briefing documents. It has mind maps. So I can open these mind maps up, technical stack, language C++. So again, ways to learn. There we go. don't like the interface much, but NotebookLM is again free and totally recommend it as a way to learn. So again, that is using artificial intelligence not to shortcut learning, but to flesh it out, give us different modalities to think about, to be able to hit a single topic from multiple angles in order to reinforce our learning. But again, it requires us to actively seek out that learning. So this is still reliant on us. It's still reliant on us turning up and doing that for ourselves. I'm going to skip that one because I don't know what that is. Interestingly, I gave it a whole bunch of other things and it has totally not added them into the... But I think we've covered a lot of it. What's important here is understanding that this is a risk, not just for kids, but for us as adults, and then working out ways to combat that, because I think this is going to be one of those kind of insidious trends, something that's going to take a while before we see it happening. There was a post and a study going around showing that Gen Z is the first generation that has a lower IQ than the previous generation. People were pointing at AI as the reason for that. I don't think that's fair. Gen AI has only been out for a couple of years. If we're going to point any fingers, it's probably social media and the destruction of attention spans. People are on TikTok, they're on Instagram. I'm guilty of this. I can only imagine what it's like for a young developing brain to be hit with all of that distraction. It's much more interesting than reading a book. The book is boring compared to TikTok. So I can imagine that has devastating consequences on a developing brain. That was just one study and I don't think it was very reputable. That said, I would not be that surprised if we see decreasing attention spans and the decrease in the amount of learning, because the cognitive friction, the cognitive load has been removed from us because of generative AI. And that's going to be a real big problem for younger generations who can just skip all of the work and go straight through, not have to deal with this messy middle part. They can skip that and go straight on to the end result, the essay. It is the script, the paper they need to put in. They can generate that better than a human within a few minutes, rather than having to go through all this process, which robs them of the learning. But again, we have to remember that people have different priorities. And if they can get to the same result in a shorter amount of time, can we blame them for that? No. But you, as somebody who's engaging with this technology on a daily basis and who wants to use AI, but use it responsibly and to also continue learning, to continue using this muscle, these are just a few ways that you can start to do that. I'm compiling lots of different ways because I think this is a huge problem. So I'd love to hear if you comment below this video once it's up on YouTube. If you can comment other ways that you're using AI to not reduce cognitive load, but to kind of exercise your brain a bit more, I would love to hear them because I think that would be very useful for everybody. And then I'll compile them into a larger guide later. But hopefully this has been useful because this is a problem that's been circulating in my head for a while. As I mentioned in the WhatsApp group this morning, we were all talking about it, and we're talking about kids specifically, people talking about their kids. I think it is a problem that needs some kind of resolution. We need to work out how we maintain our sharpness, how we maintain our brains when there are much, much easier alternatives. How do we avoid that WALL-E vision of the future where we're all just kind of flying around in cars, stuffing our faces and watching multiple screens at the same time? Because that is a grim future. And I, for one, would like to avoid it. I'm going to switch back over to questions now. And as I said, there's not much news. There's primarily the Sonnet 4.6, which is perfectly fine. Oliver says, how do I set up OpenClaw properly? Go to aiwithkyle.com/OpenClaw, and I've put together a bunch of guides in there, kind of explaining what it is. Some safety warnings, because it is high risk. There's no way around that. As I told people, my mum asked me how to set up OpenClaw, and I was like, just don't. It's too risky. There are many layers of risk using OpenClaw, so make sure you know what you're getting into. That said, the way that I recommend is putting it on a VPS. I use Hetzner. I'll show it to you. Can't spell it. I always spell it wrong. You can get a cloud server from €3.5 a month, or you can get dedicated ones. It's just going to be you, like it's more secure, for about €12 a month. You can buy a Mac Mini. It is overkill for the most part. Put OpenClaw on one of these. This is a Raspberry Pi 5, about $50. A bit more if you want a nice little case like this. And it's got a modem. Look at that. That's a modem. Isn't that cool? But you do not need to buy a Mac Mini. If you see a viral video as people saying, oh, you need this top of the range Mac Mini for OpenClaw. No, you don't. Set it up on a VPS for a couple of euros a month. Try it out. Get it working. If you need the additional power of a Mac Mini, because you want to run local large language models on it, if you want to run local processes, video editing, image editing, have your AI do all of that, and so you need the processing power, then buy a Mac Mini. Until then, though, start on a VPS and you'll be fine, because most people are just using it to text. And again, this is fine. It's $40. I'm getting a Mac Mini. If you are running processes that require that extra horsepower, absolutely. Most people are just using it to move text back and forward. Any computer can do that. But if you're suddenly moving into video, image creation, if you're doing a lot of processing, then yeah, you're going to need more processing power. If you are running a local model, so you can use LM Studio, for example, you can install LM Studio, and then you can put Gemma, or what models do we have on this? Qwen. You can put Qwen on it, or GLM. You can put an open source model locally on that machine. That said, a Mac Mini is not going to be able to run the state-of-the-art models. I have a state-of-the-art Mac Mini. This is an M4 Pro with 24 gigabytes. I think it's close to a maxed out Mac Mini. So it's not $500, it's $2,000. It struggles to run top of the range local models. That is going to get worse because the open source models, so local models, are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and better and better and better. Our GPU prices and our RAM prices are going up and up. So something like if you want to run Kimi K2, for example, you can run a quantized version. Let's see if you can run it unquantized. What you would need unquantized. You need 418 gigabytes of unified memory or 1.3 terabytes of VRAM. So yeah, you're going to need one hell of a computer, probably costing you a couple of $100,000. That is only going to get worse because these models are getting more and more sophisticated and requiring more and more power. If you do buy a Mac Mini, you can run some of the basic models now. Just don't rely on it to be able to run models for the next few years. It'll be able to run the models we have now, but as the models get better, it won't be able to run them. Just a heads up, because I've seen a lot of people thinking that it is the answer for free AI in the future. Do I run agencies? No, I don't run an agency. I used to run an agency. I used to run a digital marketing agency. So my background is digital marketing and setting up sales funnel, running adverts, etc. I don't do that anymore. When GPT 3.5 came out, when the big public release of ChatGPT, I remember using it back then and thinking, uh-oh, this is going to be a problem. Even though back then it was a bit rubbish, I could kind of see where this was going and realized pretty early on that a lot of the work that myself and my agency did was not going to be needed. I'm glad I made that decision. I used to run an agency for many years, but I got rid of it. Can you use AI to simulate the learning process with you as a human? You can have an AI learn stuff itself, but again, that's removing you from the human learning part. You could put an AI, Claude, this would be a fantastic use for Claude bot, actually, OpenClaw, excuse me. You could say, hey, you spin up a specific agent. Hey, I want to learn about technically how AI works. I'm hiring you. You are my OpenClaw advisor. You are an engineer. You work in AI, and every day I want you to deliver some kind of learning to me. I want you to find something in the news, explain it to me, link it back to what we already know, what you've already taught me. I want you to test me. I want you to proactively reach out to me and say, hey, what's this? And ask questions like, what's CUDA? And I'll answer, and you're going to use that. So you could build a one-to-one private tutor who proactively nudges you and keeps you learning, keeps feeding you resources. That would be a very cool product, actually. So yeah, you can simulate that learning journey with artificial intelligence, but it still requires you as a human to be part of that. Whereas what I'm seeing with a lot of AI is that people are offloading the cognitive load entirely because they don't need to do the work, and doing the work is hard. Instead, letting the AI do everything. We do that and our brains atrophy. We become not very good at doing stuff, unfortunately. I'm going to finish up this live. As always, all of this will be in the newsletter. So actually in yesterday's, I'll show you what I'm doing with all of these. In yesterday's live, I talked about, will AI take my job? And I talked about how it's going to take people's jobs and what the actual mechanisms are. All of this goes on the website in the newsletter form, which you can get sent. And I build it into a guide like this, where you can see all of the stuff that we discussed. The video will be embedded in there, and the slide deck. So you can get the slide deck as well. So that is all on the website. Download the presentation slides and get the notes. Like, there's a huge amount of stuff here. That's all available free on the website. That's in the resource section. So what we've just talked about today, about cognitive load, about friction and the importance of friction for learning, and the fact that we can't just offload all of our learning to AI because that's pretty short-sighted. All of these slide decks and everything will be put on the website. It will also be in the newsletter, and that is all totally free. If you go to aiwithkyle.com, You can join the community. That will get you the newsletter. You enter the community as well, where we're chatting about these kind of things. There's a bunch of courses, all for free. So there's one about starting a business with artificial intelligence, one about giving workshops to businesses and getting paid very well for doing that. Then I've got about 100 or 120 playbooks. Each of these were handwritten 2 years. I'm talking about how to actually use artificial intelligence for business. How do you raise cash with AI? How do you grow a newsletter using artificial intelligence? Applying AI to actual practical business cases and giving you playbooks for each of these. And then the daily news every single day, a bunch of tools, the AI canon. There's a huge amount of stuff on here. So that's all at aiwithkyle.com. So hopefully I will see you in the community, and you'll start to receive the newsletter as well. If you are also watching this right now, the recordings, the kind of edited version of this, the tidied up version with less rambling, appears on YouTube. You'll be able to find all of the shorter versions and all of the tidied up versions on YouTube as well. Again, it's I am Kyle Balmer, or AI with Kyle, and you'll be able to find it there. Hopefully that is useful. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to hop off now, and I will see you. Cheers.